In the darkness of this cave, the last sound the victim might have heard was the footsteps of their enemy. 2 powerful blows. And then, everything faded into eternal silence. Do you believe that murder existed hundreds of thousands of years ago? At a time when humans weren't even Homo sapiens like we are today? Today, we will revisit one of the oldest recorded murder cases in human history, a chilling crime that took place 430,000 years ago. This is not just a tale of science, but a true crime mystery, with a victim, a perpetrator, and forensic evidence preserved across millennia. Join me as we uncover the oldest murder case in the history of humankind. To understand this case, we need to turn back time 430,000 years to the Middle Pleistocene epoch. This was an era of giant mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, and harsh glaciations covering much of Europe. Amid this wild world lived a prehistoric human species, Homo heidelbergensis. They were tall, robust, standing around 1.6 to 1.8 meters, with large skulls and strong bodies adapted to survive the freezing climate. They could communicate with primitive language and crafted sophisticated stone tools, mainly Acheulean hand axes, double-edged axes used for hunting, cutting bones, meat, and possibly as murder weapons. Our story takes place at a unique archaeological site, Cima de los Huesos, or the Pit of Bones, possibly the earliest human burial ground ever discovered. Hidden deep within the Cueva Mayor cave system in the limestone mountains of Atapuerca, northern Spain, the Pit of Bones is a natural stone shaft about 13 meters deep, nearly vertical, dark and treacherous. The descent is so narrow that, even in prehistoric times, it would be highly unlikely for someone to fall in by accident. Since 1984, archaeologists have unearthed over 7,000 prehistoric human bone fragments here, belonging to at least 28 to 29 Homo heidelbergensis individuals, the largest collection of early human remains ever found at a single site. Even more striking, there's almost no evidence of predators or large carnivores in the area, leading many researchers to believe the bodies were intentionally placed, possibly as an early form of burial. Among the artifacts was one particularly mysterious item, a red quartzite hand axe, dubbed Excalibur. It lay alone among the bones, unused, unworn, as if deliberately placed there as an offering. These elements led scientists to propose that Cima de los Huesos may represent the earliest evidence of human awareness of death and ritual burial, dating back hundreds of thousands of years. And in that deep pit, among thousands of bone fragments, one skull shocked the entire archaeological world. A skull bearing the unmistakable signs of a violent crime, which we are about to investigate together. The work of a paleoanthropologist requires almost infinite patience. Every millimeter of soil is carefully brushed away. Each bone fragment is recorded, numbered, preserved. And thanks to this painstaking work, one of the most astonishing discoveries was made. Over more than 20 years of excavation at Cima de los Huesos, scientists collected and reassembled over 7,000 ancient human bone fragments. Among them was one extraordinary specimen, 52 fragments reconstructed into an almost complete skull, named Cranium 17. It belonged to a young Homo heidelbergensis, about 20 years old, with features closer to Neanderthals than Homo sapiens. What made this skull unique was its nearly intact facial bones, a rare find in paleoanthropology. But as researchers began detailed analysis, they discovered something no one expected. Above the frontal bone, just above the left eye socket, were 2 puncture wounds, perfectly round and closely placed. The first measured about 17 millimeters, the second about 16 millimeters, nearly identical in size, shape, and angle. Most crucially, there were no signs of bone healing. This indicates that the victim died shortly after being struck, or directly from those blows. Using 3D CT scans and digital reconstructions, paleoanthropologists and forensic experts confirmed both injuries were made by the same type of weapon, likely an Acheulean hand axe, a sharp-edged stone axe. Even more disturbing, the first blow may not have been lethal, while the second, to the exact same spot, was delivered with greater force, as if to finish the job. This ruled out any chance of accident. A fall wouldn't produce two near-identical wounds so close together. An animal attack would leave scratches, gnaw marks, or multiple injuries. And that was when they realized they were looking at evidence of a 430,000-year-old murder. Cranium 17 became the first silent witness in the history of prehistoric forensics, the oldest known murder case ever uncovered. Using modern forensic techniques and 3D scanning technology, scientists reconstructed the details of each wound. Both injuries were located on the frontal bone, just above the left eye socket. The first wound measured about 17 millimeters in diameter. The second, approximately 16 millimeters, almost identical. More importantly, the shape of the wounds indicated they were caused by the same weapon, possibly a stone tool with a sharp edge, or an Acheulean hand axe like the one previously mentioned. The angle of attack suggested a face-to-face confrontation. The most chilling detail: the first strike may not have killed the victim instantly. That's when the attacker delivered a second blow, to the exact same location, using the same weapon, but with greater force. This was a deliberate, calculated, and brutal act. How can we rule out other causes? First, if this were an accident, such as falling and hitting a rock, the wounds would not be so consistent in shape and angle. Second, an animal attack would leave bite marks or claw damage across multiple areas of the body. And the decisive evidence, the absence of bone healing, meaning the victim died immediately or very shortly after the attack. This was a premeditated murder, likely the earliest recorded instance of homicidal violence. 430,000 years ago, in this pitch-black cave, a true murder took place, and we are now staring at the evidence. Case ever uncovered. But this story holds even more mysteries. Who was the killer? Was it another member of the same group, or an enemy from a rival tribe? In the world of Homo heidelbergensis, small groups of 20 to 30 individuals migrated seasonally in search of food. Conflicts over hunting grounds and territory could easily arise. What was the weapon? Based on the wound's shape and depth, most experts believe the round, deep, and similar injuries were likely inflicted with an Acheulean hand axe, a distinct, sharp-edged stone tool capable of penetrating skull bone with sufficient force. Other possibilities include a sharp rock or a pointed wooden club, but the strongest evidence still supports a purpose-built stone weapon. What was the motive? Anthropologists propose various theories. It might have been intergroup conflict over scarce resources, rising population pressures, or territorial disputes. During the Ice Age, food was limited, and protecting resources could be a matter of survival. Or perhaps it was a personal conflict, a fight over social status, mating rights, or even revenge. Emotions like jealousy, greed, and hatred clearly existed long before written history. But the biggest question remains: why was the body found here? Some researchers argue that early humans were responsible for the accumulation of remains encima de los huesos, supporting the idea that this site represents the earliest known evidence of funerary behavior. What does that mean? It could suggest that Cima de los Huesos was humanity's first cemetery, a place where the dead were intentionally deposited. Scientists found remains from about 30 H. heidelbergensis individuals purposely thrown into the pit. If that's true, another haunting possibility emerges. Could the killer have also been the one who brought the body here? Perhaps it was an act of remorse, a primitive form of burial, or a calculated attempt to erase all traces. Or maybe it was simply a dumping ground, remote, hard to access, where a body could be hidden forever. We may never know the truth. This 430,000-year-old murder case didn't just shock the archaeological community, it raised profound questions about human nature. Is violence woven into our evolutionary journey? Have humans always been capable of both love and lethal intent? Cranium-17 stands as a silent testament that no matter the era, human beings have carried the capacity to create and destroy, to cherish and to hate. So what do you think about this ancient case? What motive do you believe could have driven a murder 430,000 years ago?